Okay, thank you. Good afternoon, everybody. I hope you enjoyed your lunch. I'd like to ask everyone to please join me in welcoming our webcast viewers. Webcast viewers, thank you very much for joining us. My name is Andrew Graham. I'm president of the Canadian Club of Toronto and your host for today. Viewers, thank you for joining us. Merci de nous rejoindre sur l'Internet. We are proud of the club's track record of providing a forum for leaders in business, politics, and the community to share their viewpoints with us. I think it's so important in this age when technology is everywhere that in fact there is even more reason to get together in person and have lunch and sit around the table with other people and chat. And I think the great reception to today's event and to other events that we have really shows that. We have to be very thankful for the sponsors that support events like this. I want to express special thanks today to today's event's sponsors, including Borden Ladner Gervais, BLG, represented by Philippe Tardif, Ivado Labs, represented by Lalit Kanaran, and PwC, represented by Ryan Couvret. I would also like to acknowledge the youth and young leaders joining us this afternoon. Girls 20, sponsored by Kirkman Consulting, and C.W. Jeffries and the Rotman School of Management, sponsored by Julie DiLorenzio. Can you stand up? Could those tables stand up so we can recognize you? Thank you all so much for joining us. I'd also like to thank MediaEvents.ca, Canada's online event space, and VVC for live streaming today's event, and of course, the Financial Post for their media sponsorship. With our panelists now in their seats, let me just offer you a sneak peek of some upcoming events. First of all, on Tuesday, November 20th, the President and CEO of the Canadian Pension Plan Investment Board, Mark Machin, will be at our podium. And on Friday, November 23rd, Canada's Finance Minister, the Honourable Bill Morneau, will join us for his fall economic statement. I think those should both be excellent events. I should also mention that the Club Canadien is hosting an exciting event on December 12th featuring Julie Méthot, Directrice of Air Georgian. We hope you can attend. It's now my pleasure, I should say, to introduce our panel for today. J'ai l'honneur d'introduire notre table ronde. According to a recently released report from Stats Canada, more than 3/4 of Canadian enterprises implemented some form of innovation in 2017. Future success is heavily dependent on investing in and implementing technological innovation. I know I deal with that every day in my job. I'm sure many of you do as well. Today's panelists really bring us a terrific range of perspectives about how to make innovation real and of technological success. Joining us are Andree-Lise Méthot. Andree-Lise is the founder and managing partner of Cycle Capital Management, one of Canada's most important clean tech venture capital platforms. She is the founder and chairperson of the EcoFuel Accelerator, as well as co-founder of the EcoFuel Fund. She has received numerous honors, including the Ordre des Ingénieurs du Québec and the Ordre National du Québec. Jim Balsillie, he's a Canadian business icon, the former chair and co-CEO of Research in Motion, helped to take the Canadian technology company from an idea to over $20 billion in global business. He is also co-founder of the Institute for New Economic Thinking and the Council of Canadian Innovators. Jim is a member of the Canadian Business Hall of Fame and has been recognized as one of the world's most influential people. And I can tell you, as someone who leads a technology company in Canada, Jim is a real icon that many of us look up to and look to for advice. Louis Têtu is chairman and CEO of Coveo, a leading provider of AI SaaS platforms and applications for digital business personalization. Prior to Coveo, Louis co-founded Taleo, the leading international provider of cloud software for talent and human capital management. Louis is also chair of the board of Pedal MD, the leading cloud platform in the Canadian medical sector. He serves on the boards of Industrial Alliance Financial Group and the Quebec City Airport Authority. And facilitating the discussion is Marie-Danielle Smith, a journalist with the National Post. Marie-Danielle has been covering Canadian politics and business for a variety of outlets over her career, and I'm sure will bring a valuable discussion to our distinguished panelists. There was some questioning around the table at lunch about how tough she was going to be, and I think the answer was you should be very tough, right? Was that the conclusion? I hope so. Marie-Danielle and our panelists, the Canadian Club of Toronto's podium is yours. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So the conversation that we're here to have today, it's not a new one. How to make Canadian companies innovative, how to build strategies to help them do that. And to start, I'm hoping that you can sort of help us understand how we got to this point where a lot of people feel that Canadian innovation has fallen behind much of the rest of the world. Is that because of mistakes that keep getting made over and over? How did we get here?
Want me to start?
Sure.
Oh, it's terrible public policy. We have outdated policy thinking that's rooted in the industrial production economy of tangibles. And the innovation economy is about the commercializing ideas, and you can't commercialize things you don't own. And so you have to accumulate intangible assets through a very deliberate set of systemic activities. And we have had no public policy to do that. And so we need a radical upgrading of our public policies for the 21st century economy. And the one thing I will say is in 1976, 16% of the S&P 500 was intangibles. Currently, it's about 90%. And we've completely missed that era where these kinds of CEOs are successful in spite of the public policy, where we should have policies that support them. And so we need a radical upgrading of our public policy approaches and thinking.
I would say policy making is certainly a very important element, but the other one is the way we are approaching the risk. I think we need to change a little bit the profile of the investors in technology to make sure we have sophisticated people who will understand where is the risk, how we can build a real relationship and build the policy, the public policy, because at the end, we need to create a real environment for our entrepreneurs if you want to have a success. If you look the profile, for example, in China of investors in terms of risk, they are ready to take risk because they want to win the new green economy. I'm from the clean tech sector, and I will say it's more active actually in China in terms of freedom to operate, in terms of put money at risk with innovation and building a new economy. Well, yes, we are far, but it's not a reason to do nothing. We have a great idea, great vision, but what we need to do is change this vision through a real execution and stop the hallucination. I think it's one of our problems in Canada. We hallucinate with our vision, but we don't execute perfectly the roadmap. A lot of people with great ideas, but who are the real worker of this economy? And a lot of vocal people, what we want to see, it's people who are doing things, like these two guys. It's what important. These people need to speak. These people need to explain what they mean. We need to build the market for these companies, starting here, and conquest the rest of the world. It's the way to fix it. For me, it's very easy. The problem is too much vocal people around the table.
And you want me to be vocal.
Yes, yes, my friend.
I think when you look at technology and innovation, it all starts with understanding. I don't think this country, and starting with its political leaders, as Jim mentioned, and public policy for the most part, has truly understood, and still don't, even I'll say openly, starting from the PM office, how value is created, how value gets created from technology. I do believe, and I'm from Quebec, but I think it's the same in Ontario and Ottawa, and et cetera. We've looked at tech people, at tech employees as mere taxpayers, basically, whether they work for a Canadian company or a US company, or now it's a Chinese company or whatever. They're a taxpayer anyway. They still talk about job creation when in reality in the digital sector we've been full employment for 10 years, so go figure how that works. But fundamentally it's about understanding the very mechanisms through which technology and IP in particular creates value. And it's really two things. It's about, first of all, it's about the tech sector, and how companies like ours and God many others can take technology and monetize that and create billion-dollar companies, and we're doing that, and we can do that with technology. But it's also looking at Canada also in the sense that every business is a tech company, and so that technology is a true leverage for every business, that if we don't adopt technology, and I'll just conclude by saying that in AI in particular, because my firm right now is that I think the #1 Canadian company in AI, I believe that, and I've been in technology for 30 years, I believe that AI is going to be the most brutal digital transformation we've ever seen. If we think about the internet, if we think about mobility, if we think about cloud computing, in 5 years from now, there will be companies who have adopted AI, and there will be companies who will compete against companies who have adopted AI. And I would ask you to ask yourself which ones you want to invest in. And so we better take our AI as an example and invest it in our economy, and I can assure you that's not what we're doing today.
So let's talk about political leadership, which you've all mentioned. The federal government has put a lot of energy towards attracting foreign firms into Canada and getting them to set up branch plants here. And so we see the Prime Minister going out of his way to Silicon Valley or Seattle. Have you been able to get meetings with the Prime Minister lately?
No.
So what do you think of that approach? Is there anything helpful at all to Canadian tech companies when the government is pursuing that?
I don't have an opinion on that. Do you, Jen?
Okay, no, but we need to set the table. Okay, we are both fan of abs, and then we'll let Maple Leaf win this one.
First of all, I'll say this. I'm really honored to share the stage with these folks here. Like when you do what I do, you gravitate to people who command respect. And so those of you that are early in your careers, look at how they conduct themselves and look at how they comport themselves and have command of their situation and all that stuff. So, and I'm not just pumping their tires. When you have these kinds of role models and how they articulate and how they build things deliberately and systemically, that's an informative process. And you can learn from that. So my question of that is, why aren't they at the front of the bus driving the ecosystem and the economic decision making like every other successful innovation economy in the world does? I assure you, when I grew RIM globally, whatever I did, whatever I said, I always thought of how I bring the wealth back to Canada. Do you really think the people that come here are any different than the frame of mind that I took in that? That everybody belongs to some community where they want to bring the success back home because that's how we process as human beings. And so it's putting these people, and we had a dinner a couple months ago, and there was a bunch of very successful Quebec, and Quebec's got some great companies, a very successful CEO, a very big company, you'd all know who it is, and they said in the last 10 years, every year, they've systemically, you remember when he said it, I'm progressively not part of the conversation where they don't seek the input, and you wonder why our companies don't scale. It's because we put wind in their face, not in their back.
Probably on it, I can add something. I had a very interesting experience because you're speaking about, well, I didn't met the premier, but I met people around the premier. And I had a very good experience. It's the first time Jim and I, through SDTC and Cycle, we did an amazing study about IP and financing clean tech in Canada. I had a chance to present the results with one of our advisors. One of our venture partner, Louis Carbonneau, is the former head of IP of Microsoft and is working for our group. And he helped us a lot to translate to the government what will be the next step if we want to have a real freedom to operate. And in my conversation, what I saw, it's people very open and understand the fact if we want to build the green Google for Canada, we need to take care of the IP strategy, freedom to operate, intangible asset. And I think we start with them the beginning of the conversation. Now, the premier cannot fix all the things. The ecosystem needs to fix the thing. We need to be honest brutally between us and ask us, do we are doing the right thing to make sure we will build this economy? And my answer is, yes, I saw some opening, they are ready to do something, but now we need to be active in the ecosystem to build the right thing. Other aspect about big companies, my experience with our CEOs and team in our portfolio, very important to have strategic investors from the world. I have a chance to co-invest with BMW, ABB, Horus, Sino-Bioway, BASF, Denso. They are amazing. The challenge we have, it's not the fact we have big companies in our portfolio companies. It's the fact we don't own enough of our Canadian company. The problem is not to have 10%, share 10% of our ownership with BASF. The problem is if BASF owns 40% of our company in Canada. And I think it's more about, we need to have a real nuanced view about the fact we need them because we need them to scale up. It's very nice to co-invest with TPG. They are great investors. We learn a lot as a VC to invest with BlackRock. It's a good thing. But what is important for Canada is make sure in a Canadian company you have enough ownership from Canadian entity. And I think it's not to say no, it's say how we can build that with them with a real respect. We need to learn to dance with the beast. And it's part of our challenge as investors and as CEOs and companies in our portfolio.
I think if you take lesson from what happened in Silicon Valley, I spent 20 years of my life back and forth every second week there, and what I've observed is what I call the triangle. They understood more so than anyone else the famous triangle between research and IP, which is predominantly Stanford, capital, which is Sand Hill Road, and businesses and an ecosystem. And again, at the core of that, they understood very early on that IP is gold and that talent is the new oil. Yeah. And I think that's unfortunately again what this country does not understand is that it's in Quebec. I call the multimedia sector, the gaming sector, the biggest fiasco of the past 20 years. And the reason I say that is not that we don't have a lot of people moving in the sector. It's because when you think about the economic value that was created in the gaming sector, it's basically not zero. It's less than zero because we actually sent checks to Paris, to Ubisoft, to Electronic Arts, and et cetera, and to Warner Studios, and et cetera. We created, within 20 years, no public company, no IP that's valuable, no capital gain, and basically we fueled the attrition of talent, because we currently have a shortage of about 30,000 talent to digitize that's badly needed across all business sectors in Canada. Louis Vachon, the head of National Bank, went public in the paper about that he's all for fintech and the digital transformation and so on, but it all boils down to people. I don't have talent. So all these people that we're paying, it's basically contributing. I call it the triple impoverishment. We're selling a check abroad because it's not a tax credit, it's a subsidy. They don't pay taxes in Canada. So we're selling a check abroad, we're exporting the wealth, and we're creating the attrition that basically our businesses across all sectors, Canadian Tire, Air Canada, CN, Royal Bank, and et cetera, need, in fact, to become competitive. And the very reason at the core, and I'll stop with that, the very reason at the core, I personally believe that I've observed, is that contrary to, again, Palo Alto, is we do not understand the leverage of technology. We do not understand right now that a pocket of 10, I was telling Alain Bouchard the other day of Couche-Tard, you realize that a pocket, if 10 data scientists at Couche-Tard do their job well, they'll increase your market cap by 5 to 10 billion because you're going to do dynamic pricing on your sandwiches in your stores. And that's leverage. It's not, those are not mere taxpayers that, the government should care whether they work for Ubisoft or Canada. It's leverage, it's oil. And I think that's really, really important.
I'm talking to everybody, but I'm talking a little bit to the students here. I think there's two very teachable moments here that I want you to pick up on. Number one, do you notice the technocracy of how these two people talk? It's a very technical, it's a very specific exercise. This is not about platitudes, it's not about generalities, it's not about puffing your chest. Pay attention to the technocracy. The second thing is, in a spectrum, one of the personality spectrums is agreeability to honesty. And if you notice that they're not focused on agreeability, they're focused on honesty. And I would argue that in tech, you will not be successful if you do not develop the technocracy skills and that you're not someone who engages in honest discourse, because you will fail if you're not honest. So I just I just wanted to say, watch how they comport and how they dissect these issues and approach them. That's why they're successful. And when you see our policy circles, ask, do you see this kind of sophistication and do you see this kind of honesty in the discourse? And what hopefully you're seeing here in this conversation today is the elevation of those attributes of success.
If I may, I want to share one data. And this data was a real eye-opener for Jim and I when we saw that. In our study, we did the full assessment worldwide of who own what in terms of IP in clean tech. And if I take one subsector of clean tech, ag tech, probably if I ask to all of you, Canada, it is good or not in ag tech? The answer is yes, okay? Totally agree with you. If you look the numbers, okay, it's a full view about the world. 92% of family patent in ag tech apply to clean tech. Okay, we need to feed the world. Is owned by a Chinese entity, public or private. When people said to me, Andree-Lise, we are so good in ag tech, we have 2 companies in Canada, I say, oh yeah, what will be the next one? Based on which IP? Based on which intangible asset? My answer is, not sure I will spend too much time in this sector. Because this invention is not Canadian. We publish it, and they protect it. And if you look the rate of transformation, if you look the number of publication versus how we can translate that in real patent family, it's not business, huh? It's just a patent family. It's nothing. The Canada is 16 on 1,000. The China is 236 on 1,000. Can you explain this difference? It's just the fact, what we like is to be in a magazine. What we like is branding. What they like is success, achievement, change the world. They are 1 billion people, and they need to fix it. And they have a clear 5-year plan for green tech. Not a lot of subsidies and a lot of vocal people around the table to brand themselves. It's a totally different world. But we need to fix it. We cannot say we're so good in ag. We're really good to use the technology for others, and we are really good to preparing the podium for others, like Louis said essentially before me. We need to fix it.
So we've kind of alluded to the branding exercises of the federal government, but it's not just at the federal that policies get made that can be helpful to business. There's the provincial as well. Donc, parlons un peu du Québec en français.
Mais moi, je voudrais dire que ce n'est pas la faute des gouvernements. Je ne suis pas d'accord avec toi. On peut dire que c'est la faute des gouvernements. Les gouvernements, on a de nos gouvernements ce qu'on leur demande. C'est à nous de changer nos demandes.
Donc, que sont vos demandes?
En fait, moi, je pense sincèrement qu'il faut être plus exigeant pour que la recherche appliquée, pas la recherche fondamentale, mais que la recherche appliquée, qu'on puisse tourner ça vers un potentiel de commercialisation et ensuite que la chaîne de financement soit suffisamment robuste pas pour accompagner les entrepreneurs. Les entrepreneurs n'ont pas besoin d'être accompagnés, ils ont besoin d'être supportés. C'est très différent. Donc, il faut avoir une chaîne de financement sophistiquée qui va supporter les entrepreneurs dans leur roadmap qu'ils sont en train d'exécuter.
Can I
Can they
translate?
translate?
Yeah,
Okay,
I'll
okay.
switch to English. I'll switch to English.
good, good.
Use this too.
No, that's fine. I'll switch. Je comprends je peux parler
comprends le
français, but I'll
français.
switch to English.
Okay, good.
Since we're in Toronto. Mais je comprends la question en français. So your question was about provincial, Quebec, and et cetera. Actually, I hear what she said. I think the point here was it's not the fault of the government, or it's what we ask for the governments and so on. Yes, I think it all goes back to an evolution of the metrics. I think still, and for decades, the key metric for the government has been job creation and the optics of job creation. So, and if you're a politician, optics is all that matter. So whether I create a job at Facebook or whether I create a job at Coveo or RIM, it's the same, and I would actually argue that Facebook is better for the voter. The picture is much better. You know, the Trudeau selfie with say Facebook in the back. That's wonderful. In Quebec, though, that's becoming a real problem. I think that will change because of full employment. Because now, you know, unemployment rate, and God knows it was very predictable, but still, apparently people are just realizing that, hey, you know, we are in full employment and so on. So, you know, that's a problem. And when the government attracts foreign companies, one other effect is that it creates inflation and shortage, and that affects our businesses. But I'll just give you some actual facts about Quebec. I've already talked about the gaming sector. I can just tell you that the head of data science in Montreal, and I like her dearly, she's very nice, but she's on the payroll of Facebook. And her colleague, and she heads the research in Montreal in data science, and her colleague works for DeepMind Google. And so what happened, in fact, is that over the past 20 years, I think our universities, it's well known, have been fairly underfunded. And yet, you know, I personally believe that education and research is owned by Canadians. It was paid by all of us and should benefit all of us. But it was very easy, in fact, for a Google, for a Facebook, a Microsoft, and many others, in fact, to buy themselves chairs. You know, it costs basically $10 million, which at Facebook, $10 million is in the bottom drawer of the reception desk. And so that's how you buy a research chair in Canada. Effectively, what we're doing when we're doing that, it's a little bit like if we were in pharma, and we would give the head of research in our biggest pharmaceutical sector to Pfizer, to someone working for Pfizer, so that we give them a de facto first right of refusal on talent and IP. And so that is what is going on in Quebec right now. I could talk to you at length about what's going on at the University of Montreal and et cetera. I will, in fact, take the occasion to say that yesterday, go in La Presse in Montreal, I'll end on that, just to give you a sense of what's going on in Quebec. Yesterday, it just happens that my firm announced an expansion in Montreal. We're adding 300 employees, 75 in Quebec, whatever. 225 in Montreal and 75 in Quebec City over the next 12 to 18 months. The article in La Presse titled that Montreal, you can check it, it was yesterday, titled that Montreal is adding 400 new employees in artificial intelligence. Two-thirds of the article was on a firm by the name of Pixomondo, which is an American firm where the CEO quotes that he's in Montreal because of the tax incentives, that he's going to create 150 jobs, which is not true. I said, I'm not going to create jobs. I'm going to get people from elsewhere because everybody is working. And there was a quote from Premier Trudeau honoring Pixomondo, and a quote from the head of Montreal International honoring Pixomondo. And then the final third of the article was, oh, by the way, Coveo is creating 225 jobs in Montreal, is going to hire 225 people in Montreal. And you know, we're going to be soon maybe, you know, $1 billion cap company or something like that. Maybe the next Shopify, I don't know. Making no promises or whatever. But you know what? That is what we should care about. And so that's what's going on in Quebec. And I think it is very, very serious. I think we're all ambassadors of that. And I think, you know, again, this is further attrition that our businesses, it's not the tech sector, we're fine. We're not asking more money. We're not asking, we can take care of ourselves. We're actually pretty attractive companies to hire people. But if I'm a manufacturer, if I'm a distributor, if I'm a retailer trying to do digital transformation and so on, you know, what the government calls foreign investors, we call foreign predators. And it's true. Tencent is a shareholder in a company that is the self-declared leader in AI in Canada, apparently. Tencent is a $284 billion conglomerate in China, China has declared in July that they would be the leaders in the world in AI, that they would get talent anywhere in the world at any price. And because, you know, you always put your money where your mouth is, they put a $500 billion fund behind it. So we have to wake up. We have to get really, really serious about what will create prosperity in this country. And you know, I think it's wealth creation. I think it's an understanding the value of that gold and that talent and that IP that we have.
So I just like to turn to Ontario. Kathleen Wynne had a business advisor named Ed Clark, and he became the one in charge of things like the Amazon bid. And he said, our engineers get paid 38 cents on the dollar, and we're going to work hard to keep it that way. So our public policy has focused on compressing the prosperity of our young graduates and growing our productivity gap to attract foreign companies that don't pay taxes in Canada. And we wonder why we have deficits and revenue. So this isn't just in Quebec. This is also, we've had...
It's a Canadian thing.
It's a great, and what do they all have in common is these people, like the man I just mentioned, have no experience in the innovation economy, have never competed on the global stage. And they come in and push these people aside and say, I'll tell you how it works. Because it's about ego. And they don't make it about the real success. I mean, who of you graduates want to be paid 38 cents on the dollar for your talent when you graduate? Well, that was our public policy until the last election.
If I may just share an example, I'm an emerging sector, clean tech. It's not well demonstrated. We have a chance in our portfolio to have a great company with great challenges, but we just closed a round of financing of $280 million in equity. What is really big in clean tech in Canada. More than 2/3 of this round of financing was supported by Chinese and BlackRock in US. It's not because we didn't try to bring Canadian investors. We tried a lot, but we failed. We failed as investors. We failed with our CEO and his team. And why? It was easier to bring BlackRock or Sino-Biowave from China than someone else in the market. Why? The value of this company is over $1 billion. It's sort of potential unicorn on paper. Why?
So you were saying in French, you know, that it's also the responsibility of the tech sector to come to government with ideas. So,
and it's the responsibility of the financial market to have the right call. It's a dynamic. It's not just about a government. It's about us. And we need to fix that as an ecosystem. Financial people need to think about that. They need allocated part of their portfolio to the risk to grow this country. Because if we don't have jobs, if we cannot get it, well, no longer pension fund in 100 years, because it will be the end of the story. The next thing, the next revolution will be tech, green, AI. Where are we as ecosystem?
So can I ask, I mean, we've got a few questions from the audience to get to, but can I ask each of you just to give me a quick elevator pitch? If you were in the office of the Prime Minister right now, what is the one policy that you would ask him to change?
Hire one innovation expert into the PMO.
Okay? Place your confidence on people who execute. People who are doing things, and put your money with pigs, not with chicken. The pigs contribute to the breakfast, really, with a skin, and the chicken just, we can't change it.
Well, two things. I was in the PMO office 3 weeks ago, and I said to the cabinet guy, I said, tell Justin to stop smiling at Eric Schmidt. But seriously, I would say he's not here for Canada. He's here for Canada, you know, and you know, let's realize that. But more seriously, I think as a practical matter, you were talking about the financial system. The way I look at it, and I've seen it, we've financed tech companies and so on in the US and cross-border and et cetera. I deal with accountants in Canada, I deal with actuaries in the US. And think about that. And this is really different. They don't look at it the same way. In the US, I am in the world of actuaries. They don't care how much you lose money if you create value. They know how to run. They know how to understand the long-term value of an IP asset. They know how to think about a customer in terms of acquisition cost, in terms of recurring margin, in terms of IRR, and all the financial metrics, literally the way actuaries think about an insurance policy. And I've seen in the financial sector, in the course of raising money and et cetera, I've seen it evolve. I've seen it change. But I can tell you that this has been a painful journey over the past 2 decades, and such a contrast working with the U.S. and Canada from that perspective. And I'm certainly sharing that learning.
So we'll take a few questions that we've received from the audience now. This one's for Jim. The question is, do you feel like you might have been too hard on Waterfront Toronto and Sidewalk Labs? And have they won you over now?
Well, let's be honest, it was a corrupt process of awarding that contract for 40 days for a project that's worth about $100 billion in development and represents the digital nervous system of our community and our nation. No, I'm being honest. And there are no experts that were part of the decision process. It represents an exfiltration of wealth and data from our country and sovereignty. And then the fact that you have the people who made the decision then get high-paying government relations jobs with Sidewalk thereafter, that's corrupt. And we need to look at these separation functions so that decisions are made in the public interest, not for people to get GR jobs while they fawn and genuflect in front of foreign tech giants. It's not how you build, people respond to you when you build respect by how you command the situation of what you're doing, not by ingratiating and giving away the country. So I think, and the problem with data, in the data-driven economy, first of all, the 8 most valuable companies in the world are all data-driven, and Andree-Lise and I sit on the STDC board, and the CEO says all of the applications for clean tech we're giving are underpinned by data strategy, so the economic future. But the issue with data, it has non-economic effects. We've seen how it affects democracy, we've seen how it affects privacy, ethics, security, mental health. This is the underpinning of the fabric of our society, and to do a secret deal with a rogue agency that's not accountable to the public interest, without any transparency, I think my problem was I didn't say it strong enough.
So the answer is no.
Yeah.
What are we, if not this country? Like, how do we get to this point where these kinds of existential decisions are being made in this fashion? Like, what's happened to this country? I was so busy in the world, and I came back, and I went, what happened? After a decade, something happened in this country. It eroded in how we do policy discourse, how we do public policy, and that kind of corruption. And the people who make the decision got GR jobs, and now they lobby the people that they pointed as successors. Like, are people okay with this? And it's $20 billion, 10 to 20 billion of land, $100 billion of real estate, and it's the digital nervous system of our whole future. Whoever controls the data controls who and what interacts with it. Like, is anybody in this room okay with that? And the organization has no democratic accountability to anybody. It has no data innovation experts on the board. And they go around and buy everybody off. Like, what kind of country is this? You have to stand up. Like, I don't want to criticize the country. That's why I find this faux elite thing that we have, that people parade like they're innovation experts and they're city builders, when these are the leaders. And it's a beautiful country, and I love it, and we're all proud citizens. But this is no way to run a country. And so the reason I stood up is because I can. And I believe everyone should carry the load they can handle. And it's a load I think I can handle. And I know these people well. I know the actors very well in Silicon Valley. I've done business with them a long time. They're friends. I know how they think. I know the techniques you play. I mean, did anybody read the New York Times article on Facebook today about how they hired people, like Republicans, to go at George Soros, who's a mentor of mine, and they're calling him, like they're using things to go at this guy. You have to say, and yet we partner with them we partner with Facebook for election integrity. So okay, I'm unable to compute that as a Canadian, as a proud Canadian, as someone who believes this country has a certain set of values that we stand behind. I don't think these actions and these kinds of policy things are in accord with the values that I was brought up with and that I was a part of and that I was mentored into. And I don't see them at play. And I think the responsibility as a citizen is to articulate your concerns from a normative point of view and also a techno-economic point of view. And I see these on both dimensions catastrophic for this country. And you're darn right I'm going to speak up if I have something to say.
All right, so we're just about ready to wrap up here, and let's just end things. We've got a lot to think about. Let's just end things on a very light note. We've got a question from the audience.
Light note.
We'll switch gears slightly there. A question from the audience. What's your least favorite tech buzzword? I'll let you each say what that is, and then we'll wrap up.
Oh, God.
Favorite
I'm
tech
going last.
buzzword? Oh,
Tech
wow.
buzzword.
My tech buzzword.
People.
Seamless integration.
People.
Outward looking.
Yeah.
These are words that the government might enjoy too.
Look, the reason I believe this is we have so much potential. We have unbelievably great students. We have great ideas. We have great leaders. We have sophisticated societies. We have a place where people want to live. I think we can build an enormously prosperous and beautiful society tomorrow if we really orient ourselves well. So I think it's worth having very serious and honest discussions because what's at play is so substantial and it can be so beautiful. There's so much potential in this country if we just orient it right. So that's why I treat this so seriously. And I think it's a very serious topic, but I actually think this is an optimistic story. These are people that care. Mm-hmm. They see a way to do far, far better. And so I think that's why we're having a very serious, honest conversation. It's very easy to flit around and just kind of dodge it, but then you're going to agreeability rather than people who care trying to honestly unpack a future.
I think I would echo that, and I'm just not pumping the gas here, but I think Canada, in the world of innovation, the metaphor I always use, good or bad or indifferent, the metaphor I always use is the most powerful force of nature, I think, is cross-pollination. And in the world of innovation, you don't find innovation in homogeneity. Canada has this amazing advantage of diversity. And diversity is an extremely powerful force, and I mean that. I think diversity is a force because that very unique blend of culture, and combined with a good standard of living, creates an amazing opportunity for innovation. And I know we've leveraged that, and we see that advantage. We use that advantage every day and every week with our customers on the international scene. The question is, first of all, can we believe in that? Can we, a country, a society, a company is like an individual. It takes a dosage of self-confidence. So like Jim says, we need to be the first believers and stop thinking, in fact, that Facebook is better or that we need to lure Amazon. We don't want to lure Amazon. We want to build the next Amazon. Yeah. It's that. And thank you.
I will say we need to be very honest with ourselves, stand up, doing the right things. We don't have a lot of time. I think it's tick, 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 tick time now. Mm-hmm. And 20 years, it will be too late. And on personal note, I will say I'm very proud to see many women in this financial world as a CEO. and I think they can contribute a lot. Call the bullshit all the time. And I ask to my women consoeurs in French to call the bullshit in different companies, in different financial world, because we know it's our first time. The first time we are there, and we have a chance to change many things in politics, in the economy, in the way we're seeing things, and the chance we have a men who are really supportive of that. Just stand up, dear women.
Thank you.
Okay, let's leave it there. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Deborah.
Oui, bonjour, je vais prendre juste une minute de votre temps. Je vous remercie d'avoir participé au premier déjeuner d'affaires organisé conjointement cette saison par le Club Canadien et Canadian Club. Je remercie M. Jim Balsillie, M. Louis Têtu et Mme Andrée-Lise Méthot pour leur explication sur que l'intelligence artificielle est la priorité pendant nos 5 prochaines années, que la majorité des compagnies technologiques actuelles ne payent pas d'impôts au Canada. Donc c'est très important qu'on soit tous ces ambassadeurs des entreprises technologiques canadiennes. Je voudrais aussi remercier, I would like to thank our sponsors, PwC, BLG, and Ivado Labs. Thank you again. And for our next events, please go on clubcanadien.ca and canadianclub.org. Thank you.